All right, here we go. Today is Monday, June 5th, 2017, and this is episode 192 of the Defensive Security Podcast. My name is Jerry Bell, and joining me tonight, as always, is Mr. Andrew Kellett.
Howdy, Jerry. And I just want to say right up front, if the listeners could hear what we talk about before we start recording, it would be ugly.
Yeah, it would curl their hair.
You think what Kathy Lee Gifford's going through right now is bad. Woo!
That's very true. It's very true.
And
you know, the NSA right now is trying to go, rewind. Shit, what were they talking about?
No, they know exactly what we're talking about. They've got like 18 bugs in their houses. You know that.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they're paying attention.
Well, that's true.
Anyway.
Very true. Anyway, hi.
Hi. We are. It's our triumphant return.
Yeah, because last weekend I was out of the country.
Yeah, that's right. You were rescuing Bob in Bermuda or something, right?
Well, it turned out he didn't need as much rescuing as I thought he did.
Okay.
As he's, sipping champagne with the Swedish bikini team, he seemed fine. I think he exaggerated his peril a little bit.
Want to face the peril.
He's back on the job now.
Good.
And apparently he knows something about this odd situation with this very oddly named girl who leaked data to The Intercept.
Oh, Reality Winner, yes.
It's
a great name. Not sure why I didn't think about that name for my kids. Anyway.
It's not too late.
Yes. So just a reminder, speaking of that the thoughts and opinions we express on this show are ours and do not represent those of our employers. So, having said all of that, let's get into some stories. So the first thing we have tonight comes from CSO Online, and the title is "Sometimes It Is Necessary to Bend the Rules a Bit."
Thousands of lawyers and risk control people just cried out in their sleep.
So this is the result of an extensive survey of 110 people.
Did you say 110?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's okay. It's all right. All right. So 1/5 of those 110. Oh, I guess it's only 22 people, isn't it? Commonly circumvent controls either daily or weekly. And by the way, interestingly, the most common industry, because this very expansive survey of 110 people was, what they spanned many different industries. I guess as many as you can do with 110 people. And they found that the most egregious offenders were in finance.
Really?
And the worst were in manufacturing. And I got to thinking, I wonder if that has anything...
Wait. You said the worst were in finance and the worst were in manufacturing?
The best.
Oh.
The best were in manufacturing. Sorry.
Okay. All right. No, that's... carry on.
Yeah. So I got to thinking, well, I wonder, is that because like people in finance are nefarious evildoers, or is it because there's a lot more controls to have to deal with in finance?
Right. If you're dealing with 5,000 laws, you're more likely to break one than if you're dealing with 50.
Yeah. So anyway, this this article was apparently written, because there is an entire industry that apparently is built around helping you to simplify your security controls, because apparently one of the hypotheses put forward in the article is that there's just too many rules, right? And so if you can consolidate your rules down and look for things that are common across your different regulations, and you build like one authoritative set, then, there's a lot less for people to pay attention or need to pay attention to, and therefore, they're much more likely to fall in line. And there's GRC programs that will help you do that, and that's what this.
So what you're saying is, instead of trying to follow the 8 different frameworks, we generate one more framework that's a superset of the other frameworks.
That's correct, and now we have 9. Yes,
I'm sure that will work exceedingly well. Good luck with that.
Yes, but point is, people do work around their technical control, or I should say, people will work around your policy controls, which is why, in my view at least, you have to figure out where that line of demarcation is that you need to flip over into technical controls.
Right. I was thinking about this story too, and this is something that I haven't fully formulated this thought properly yet, but I'll throw it out there just for sake of discussion. So a TV show I watch with the wife is called The Americans, and it's about Russian spies who pose as Americans in the U.S. in the 80s. But in the current season, they spend a lot of time in Russia, and they are following the storyline where these basically government agents are investigating corruption in the food service industry, in the basically the grocery stores over there in the 80s. And as it comes out in the course of the season, that basically when they start to try to punish people for this, the feedback is, this is the way, this corruption, this pay to play, this favors to get better food that you're trying to stop us from, is the way the entire country works. That the fundamental way that you designed it failed, and so we have come up with another way that actually allows it to function that you call corruption. And I was trying to somehow see if I could torture a parallel out of that into times where our employees violate controls because they need to get something done, or the systems that were built in place, or the policies or the regulations aren't working for the way that particular person is incentivized or judged or measured. And so they need to find a quote-unquote corrupt way of getting something done.
Yeah, and people are endlessly creative, and if properly motivated, they'll find a way to make it work.
So, I don't know. I need to think about this a little bit more, I think, before I fully understand what it is I'm trying to say here. But I wonder if there's something to be said there, where if you're seeing a high level of infractions around your company policies, maybe that is indicative that your company policies don't work.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the the points that's buried in the story here, is that it is probably a good idea to, if you have the ability to, right, to track those non-compliances, to see, is there a trend? Is there something there that's indicative that that your policies are the problem and not necessarily the people. Having said that, we can't apply patches reliably. This seems like a level of sophistication that might be out of reach.
For reasons.
Yeah.
There are reasons.
Sure. Absolutely.
And
now, the other interesting thing that occurred to me with this one is, I've been railing on the GDPR quite a bit lately. Things like this seem to contravene GDPR, or maybe not contravene. That's just too strong of a word, right? But when you start collecting this kind of metrics about employee performance, that tends to, here in the U.S., it's really no question about it. But in other countries, that's not necessarily a given. Either due to privacy laws or labor laws and even negotiated labor agreements. So, this is not necessarily a universal truth.
Yeah, sure. I mean, many cultures have different takes on this stuff, certainly.
So anyway, moving on to our next story, which comes from Security Week, and the title is Nature versus Nurture: Is Bad Cybersecurity in Our DNA?
This story raised my blood pressure a lot.
And what do we know about stories that have a question in the headline? Usually, no.
Right.
So, there were a couple of interesting comments in here. One was kind of I'd say the most troubling, right? That they're kind of railing on, in particular, WannaCry. How in the aftermath of WannaCry, a lot of the industry did a pretty good job of pulling together and getting information out, but at the same time, you had these InfoSec marketing companies kind of running out with their webinars and trying to sell their machine learning and artificial intelligence and blah blah blah. And his point is, I think is salient. Like you didn't need machine learning and artificial intelligence and all that other crap. Like you just had to patch, and couldn't even do that or upgrade, and we couldn't even do those basic things. Apparently because we can't afford it. So what makes you think that we can afford this artificial intelligence thing?
Well, because everybody's trying to solve a problem. So
yes.
if the marketing message says you clearly are failing to be able to patch successfully for reasons, capital R, this will help you solve that problem in a different way, resonates. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm listening to a book. It's one of the MBA on Audible MBA books, and they were talking about how every marketing pitch needs to solve a particular either pain point or pleasure point.
Right.
And what you just said makes a lot of sense. Now, the other thing that really bothered me is he says basically he concludes that. Bad cybersecurity is not in our DNA. Like there are other industry, there are shining examples, in the world that we can point to. Like for instance, some of the companies did a great job with WannaCry, and so we know that that works. And then he goes on and he points out two specific industries that these two industries, they do it right. And one is
my blood pressure is starting to go up again.
One is aviation, and the other one is automotive.
Oh my God!
And now I can kind of see where they're going. I kind of see it, right? I think what he's talking about is not cybersecurity as it relates to either aviation or automotive. I mean, Lord knows we know that people make planes fly sideways, right?
I'm going to get a nitroglycerin pill and put it under my tongue.
And we all know what happened with the Jeep and remotely hacking the Jeeps. But I think what they're talking about, is kind of the feedback loop of, improving the safety of airplanes. And I kind of see it a little bit on the cars with airbags and crumple zones and all that crap, anti-lock brakes. But still, a lot of people die in cars, right?
So, 2015, most recent year for stats. Let me back up. Let me set the stage, because this drives me crazy. So, ultimately, earlier in the story, he starts to say things like we should be holding software and hardware manufacturers liable for security industry issues. We should show that, marketing folks are at fault for overselling their products, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, he did say, I did want to point out, he did say the way he contexted the liability thing was more than average, which is itself a problematic concept, but
right. So, quoting from the article, we can take inspiration from this new biological discipline. By this, he's talking about how immune system gets stronger with genetic diversity and such, right? We can apply some of the premises to our own predicament. In our case, though, instead of genes, we must look at corporate culture and governance, market regulation, even how we conduct geopolitics to change how we approach cybersecurity. We must also look at two other industries, such as aviation and automotive, to understand how they regulate safety and security effectively and still stay profitable and competitive. Wait. The final paragraph, he has this statement. The increasing cost of security is becoming unsustainable. So
it's both unsustainable and can be sustained.
Well, he's arguing that philosophical objections to regulation aside, we must regulate almost everything else. The question is only to what degree and how. Here is why I think his entire argument falls apart. First of all, he's trying to say that aviation and automotive industries have figured out how to balance safety, i.e. risk, to an acceptable level and remain profitable. So now I go back to the point I was about to make. 2015, the year that we have the most reliable stats in the U.S., 35,092 Americans died in automobile accidents in 2015. That is an acceptable level of risk to our to our society.
Yep.
Right? But it is by no means safe.
Yeah.
35,000 people died.
Right.
That's not safe.
But I think the point that he's on is that, you know, there is they do sell cars, right? Car companies sell cars and they continue to make them safer, and there's a regulatory regime around it, and planes even more so, right? But I think the thing that negates.
Let's look at aviation. Let's look at aviation for a moment. He says that they've been able to achieve it profitably. That is incredibly false. The aviation industry has gone through tremendous upheaval, multiple bankruptcy cycles, contraction, and to a point now where we've gotten tremendous creative destruction, if you will, in the market to get to a point where those industries are somewhat profitable. But they've had so many years of low profitability and so many bankruptcies, I can't possibly say. Now, what has happened is that we have tremendously strong regulation over the safety of aviation, but that also comes at a cost. And that cost is the cost of the tickets, the cost of all of the things involved with making that airline safe, and all the regulations that go with that. But to say, let's adapt this back to let's pick on Windows for a moment, an operating system. We want an operating system that's safer. Okay, you can have it. Are you willing to take 10 years to develop it and pay $10,000 a copy? No, we're not. So what he's saying is that the free market, we're too stupid to make the risk trade-off ourselves. So the government should do it for us.
But by the way, there's a great quote that I wanted to throw in related to airlines and profitability. This was from Richard Branson. He said, if you want to be a millionaire, the best way is to start with $1 billion and launch an airline.
Yeah, exactly. So he's taking a very myopic view. So you take this increasing cost of security is becoming unsustainable. Really? So let me take a step out of my role as an InfoSec guy for a moment and say, is it really unsustainable? Do I see companies going out of business because of the cost of security? Do I see people having huge earning misses because of the cost of security?
No. And so I think the other thing that we have to recognize, and this comes up in a lot of different contexts, is that there is almost no barrier to entry in the IT. What I'll frame as the IT integration business. Like if you have slapped together a home network, you can put out a shingle and go right. Work at a company and set up.
And how many jobs has that created? How much wealth has that created? How much creative capital has that created? How much has it changed the world because of the low barrier to entry?
Yeah.
It's like saying, okay, if we go back to the automobile example, which is the best one I can pick on here, because he's ignoring the fact that 35,000 people died. What he's saying is that automobiles are safe. That's like saying, we want cars that never crash. Oh, but we still want to go 85 miles an hour, and we still want to drive ourselves. And we don't want too harsh a penalty for a speeding ticket or a minor offender bender that would, predict that we're a bad driver and likely cause an accident. We just want a little slap on the wrist from society. We as a society have accepted that risk trade-off.
Yeah.
So for him to say the automobile industry is safe and well-regulated is not true. Not by any definition of safety I can think of with 35,000 people die. But it's what we have chosen as a society as the proper level of risk. And we very slowly, incrementally have added more requirements to automobile manufacturers as that technology has dropped in price.
Yeah. See, I think he's talking about when he says automotive and aviation. I think he's talking about the people that make the cars and the people that make the planes. Right. I don't think he's talking about the people that drive the cars and crash and the people who run the airlines and make the money.
So I could argue that Windows or any of the other technologies are perfectly safe when run properly.
Yeah.
Our problem is that we don't quote unquote run them properly. So whose fault is that? If we don't change the default password on our camera, on our security camera,
I think
it becomes a botnet. Whose fault is that? Well, we lambast the company who made the product.
Right.
But to this particular example and to the way that you're arguing this, we shouldn't.
Yeah. Yep, fair enough.
I mean, look, our biggest act of terrorism ever in the United States was caused by airplanes.
Yeah, but it wasn't the airplane's fault, though.
Agreed.
And so... Anyway.
But again, you can't argue both sides of this like he's arguing, which is that we want the freedom to do what we want and we want low cost. Oh, but we don't trust those people to run their gear properly.
Yeah, I think what they want is IT stuff that has all the sharp, pointy edges filed off. I mean, honestly, I think that's what it comes down to, right?
Then you get away from general purpose computing.
Yeah, well, I think you're right.
Because that's the fundamental problem, is that we have general purpose computers that can be reprogrammed to do other things.
Right.
So this one got under my skin a little bit.
Just a little bit. So yeah, let's move on.
I haven't had a good ride on the show in a while. I need to throw one out there.
True. All right, so moving on to our next story, which comes from Naked Security. The title here is OneLogin warns that attacker could be able to decrypt data. Woo! So OneLogin is single sign-on provider. They apparently had a pretty significant breach. According to information they've actually published, what apparently happened was they run their infrastructure up in Amazon or in AWS. Some attacker obtained their API key from a third party, I guess from a vendor of OneLogin. They logged into OneLogin, AWS portal, and created a couple of what they call in this article reconnaissance images. And so they use those reconnaissance images apparently to penetrate the production instances, the production databases, and to listen or to read the way that OneLogin put it. The attackers were able to get data straight out of the database tables. They do encrypt the data. However, they mentioned that they're not entirely sure that the attackers don't have the ability to decrypt it, the data. So they basically issued a statement saying, if you are a OneLogin customer, you pretty much have to start over. You got to change your certificates. You got to change your passwords. You got to reestablish, all the trust, the entire shot. So,
that's ugly. Now, before everybody starts saying it, I still support the use of password managers. It's still a bigger threat to have your password reused.
Yeah, I'm not sure this one is a password manager.
No, it's not. But a lot of people have jumped off to that tangent on Twitter.
Well, that's certainly true.
This is a single sign-on provider, which is a bigger, more corporate-y version of password managers.
Yeah. So anyway, I suspect this is kind of back to that concentration risk we've talked about in the past, right? Where look, we don't know who breached it, why they breached it, if they in fact were able to to get the information, the actual decrypted information out of the system. All we know is what's here. So it's entirely possible that this was kind of like the Aurora attacks against RSA. It was intended to facilitate access to some end target. But I think that's the kind of the concern going forward with these kind of centralized services is that they are now a big centralization of risk. They're a big target. Right. Blah blah blah. So, but
I think that's going to continue.
Well, I know it's going to continue.
And this is such a tough one to plan around. It's sort of. I don't have a lot of good advice on how to avoid this one. Pick your vendor carefully, but what was the indication ahead of time that this would have happened? It's a tough one.
Yeah, there really wasn't. And as far as we can tell, the vendor here, or OneLogin, actually did a respectable job of responding. They don't appear to be unreasonably secretive about what happened and that sort of thing. They took the response pretty seriously. Obviously, I'm sure they all wish this wouldn't have happened. But if you do outsource kind of key components of your security infrastructure, this is probably a good good tabletop exercise fodder. So, how would you quickly respond to this?
I don't know. I think it gets scary at that point. But then you've got to balance that with, okay, what is the business enablement and benefits you're getting from using a service like this? We can so easily focus on the pocket cases of I'm biting us.
I'm absolutely not advocating, staying away. I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying in general, we on the security side end up focusing so much on how we can get bit by something that we fail to look at the benefits it brings.
Correct. I hear that a lot, by the way, about my railing on Active Directory. That I am very short-sighted in my deep-seated disdain for it. So.
Well, I mean, you're probably hearing that because it's true.
Fair enough.
Carry on.
Anyway, moving on to our last story for today. The title here is Defense Contractor Left Sensitive Pentagon Files on Amazon Server with No Password.
Because that's what you do, right?
Yeah, so our good friend Chris Vickery is at it again, apparently at a different company. This time. Chris, he is, the kind of the data equivalent of a bloodhound, a drug dog, or I guess, just seems to be at the right place at the right time on Amazon's cloud to find data. So apparently he found he was trawling through S3 buckets and he found,
as you do,
as one is known to do.
That makes for an exciting Saturday night, if you ask me.
So anyway, he found a cache it was 28 gigabytes in size and had 60,000 files, including things like passwords. And some of these passwords apparently belong to people who have top secret clearance. It's not really entirely clear what those passwords were for. There apparently was a password for another S3 bucket that was password encrypted, but because Chris Vickery is one of the good guys, he didn't actually try to log in and see what was in that other S3 bucket. But this data is owned by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and probably it's probably nothing really important. Now, apparently, this by the way was not allegedly not classified information.
Mm-hmm.
But just in case, the government asked Chris's company to not destroy any records associated with with the data he found. So,
Just, yeah. Sure, it's completely innocent. Nothing to see here.
And I found it really interesting that apparently he back, I guess it was in April, found another cache of information that apparently was the result of an application's vulnerability assessment. But at the time, he really didn't know which application or who owned that application. But I guess once he started looking through this data, it became pretty clear that the data he found before was an application assessment about the data that he just found here. So it seems like there might be a trend line. By the way, you might be surprised to find out that the contractor who did this was Booz Allen Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because they don't really have problems like that.
Abstracting away from this particular circumstance, I think this is going to keep happening. I think that we've commoditized the ability to spin up IT infrastructure to be so easy and quick and cheap. We're going to keep running into this sort of situation where data is escaping control of corporate.
No question about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, there was a story we didn't have a show during the last weekend, but there was a show, there was a story about a bunch of backup. I guess it was AWS snapshots that were not supposed to be published publicly, actually, being found posted publicly because people, I guess, don't really understand what they're doing. And I think that, we have, as an industry, we've gone way too far from one end of the extreme, and I'm mostly talking about, the bigger corporate-y type environments, going from, highly rigid and process-oriented to, completely the other way, where I don't think we often don't really understand fully the technologies that we're using. Like, we know how to make it work to the point where, it does what we want it to do, but we don't fully understand.
We certainly don't understand the risks we're accepting.
Right.
And by we, I mean broadly as a society.
Yeah.
We in the IT security industry have enough trouble understanding that. When we expect folks who are not IT security experts, who are spinning this stuff up because it's so trivially easy to know that, wow, that is tough.
Exactly.
I don't have a good answer for this yet. I don't think it's going away either. I think it's going to get a lot worse, and I don't know how to fix that yet. Well, it's going to get ugly.
If we could figure it out, I'm sure we could make a bunch of money.
Just get some marketing folks.
That's right.
Start telling them to buy our Blinky box.
Write some ads. Yep. Write some articles, content. Yep. That's all it takes. So anyway, that is the show for this week. I definitely appreciate your time, and again, thank you to all of those who donated to our Patreon campaign. That is nice. It makes us feel good, and we'll Andy and I have to get together and figure out what productive creative use we can put some of that money towards that's in excess of what we used to pay the bills.
You mean after all the hookers and blow that you've been buying?
Yeah.
Can we edit that part out?
Yeah.
I don't think I was supposed to say that.
Darn it.
But in all seriousness, thank you very much for those who have donated. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. And, upcoming events, we're going to be at DerbyCon. We both have tickets. Be there, be square. Tickets, by the way, we didn't talk about this last time, but tickets sold out in a
3 minutes.
Earth-shattering 3 minutes.
And there was some controversy and gnashing of teeth about that, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Because they went on sale early, as they often do, though I was not aware that they go on sale early.
Well, usually when it takes hours or days, it doesn't really matter that it went on sale. So.
Exactly. Apparently, I'm just dumb. This is a tradition that I was unaware of.
Again, it doesn't matter if it's,
So, in this case, I think tickets went on sale at like 1 p.m. or something like that. And I had an alarm set on my phone at 12:58 to remind me to go buy tickets.
Right.
And I logged in at 12:59 or thereabouts.
They were gone. Yep.
They were gone.
I had the same experience.
Not even. Wait, what? No. Hey, whose NTP clock is wrong?
I predict next year is going to be like ShmooCon, where you're not going to get one if you don't have some kind of sniper bot trying to.
We just have to get a bit better about submitting for CFP.
Well, that would help. I need a life. I need to figure out how to get a life.
You are too damn busy for us to work on shared prezos.
Yes. Anyway, the stories we talked about tonight are on our website at www.defensivesecurity.org. You can follow the show on Twitter at DefensiveSec. You can follow Mr. Callett on Twitter at Lurg. You can follow me on Twitter at Malicious Lincoln. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but I set up a new Twitter account last weekend. It was Sun Tzu Cyber, and
I've noticed many of the phrases I personally have come up with are
goodness gracious,
without credit to me at all.
It's Sun Tzu.
I'm just saying. Once again, you're stealing my work for your own benefit.
Why would I stop now? Anyway, have a great one, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.